O eternal and almighty God, from whom all power and wisdom come, we are assembled here before thee to frame such laws as may tend to the welfare and prosperity of our province. Grant, O merciful God, we pray thee, that we may desire only that which is in accordance with thy will, that we may seek it with wisdom and know it with certainty and accomplish it perfectly, for the glory and honor of thy name and for the welfare of all our people. Amen. We acknowledge we are gathered on Treaty 1 territory and that Manitoba is located on the treaty territories and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishin, Inuak, Dakota Oyate, Dene Sulene, and Nihithowug nations. We acknowledge Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are the ancestral lands of the Inuit. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. Good afternoon, everybody. Please be seated. Routine proceedings, introduction of bills. Committee reports. The Honourable Member for Radisson.
Madam Speaker, I wish to present the 7th report of the Standing Committee on Social and Economic Development.
Your Standing Committee on Social and Economic...
The Honourable Member for Radisson.
Madam Speaker, I move, seconded by the Honourable Member for Rossmere, that the report of the committee be received.
The member may have to repeat that, please.
Thank you. I move, seconded by the Honourable Member for Rossmere, that the report of the committee be received.
It has been moved by the Honourable Member for Radisson, seconded by the Honourable Member for Rossmere, that the report of the committee be received. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed? Agreed, and so ordered. Tabling of reports. The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Table the revised sequence for the departmental estimates for Committee of Supply.
Ministerial statements. The Honourable Minister of Seniors and Long-Term Care, and I would indicate that the required 90 minutes notice prior to routine proceedings was provided in accordance with our Rule 26, Bracket 2. Would the Honourable Minister please proceed with his statement?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am pleased to rise in the House today to recognize the month of October as Seniors and Elders Month in our province. Seniors and Elders Month offers us an opportunity to celebrate the past, present, and ongoing contributions of older Manitobans throughout our province. It allows us time to applaud Manitoba's seniors and elders for their continued leadership and guidance. Older Manitobans are among the fastest growing segments of our society and represent a population rich with active, connected members, demonstrating to all of us the benefits of healthy living. Our seniors and elders share their extensive knowledge, wisdom, and skills through their work, volunteering, and caregiving. Their valued contribution to our province's rich history and economy is an inspiration to all generations of Manitobans. I would like to take this time to welcome Aaron Crawford from the Alzheimer's Society of Manitoba, as well as Connie Newman from the Manitoba Association of Seniors Communities, who have joined us here in the gallery today. I would like to recognize them, as well as the many seniors volunteers from across the province, for their hard work and dedication supporting Manitoban seniors and elders. Madam Speaker, I ask all members to join me in recognizing October as Seniors and Elders Month in our great province.
The Honourable Member for Union Station.
In October, we recognize Seniors and Elders Month. Older adults are a vital part of our communities, and they make invaluable contributions to the cultural, social, and economic fabric of our province. A long life brings much experience, opportunities, and we can all benefit from the knowledge, skills, and wisdom that older adults have to share. Having given so much to their communities and families throughout their lives, seniors and elders deserve to experience their later years with comfort, dignity, and joy. Unfortunately, we know that care for seniors and elders is lacking, and many are struggling as a result. This government cut funding for personal care homes despite rising costs and almost 200 beds in personal care homes having been lost. Accessible healthcare services have also been cut, and older Manitobans are being forced to travel further to access the care that they need. And for those who continue living at home, accessing home care services has reached a crisis point. The PCs have cut funding for home care and have contributed to high vacancy rates by underpaying home care workers. For example, we've heard from home care workers that it's common for clients to go days without services, and some folks even sitting in soiled undergarments for 3 days at a time due to lack of services. Seniors and elders deserve better than this. We call on this government today and every day to establish a seniors advocate, and we demand this government make immediate investments into improving home care services for all Manitobans who need it.
The member's time has expired. The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Madam Speaker, I ask for leave to respond to the minister's statement.
Does the member have leave to respond to the ministerial statement? Leave has been granted. The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today we are recognizing Seniors and Elders Month. Madam Speaker, prior to entering politics, I worked for the Long-Term and Continuing Care Association for 3 years, and through this job, I gained a stronger understanding of some of the issues that seniors face here in Manitoba. Now, issues change over the years, but some of the consistent issues under the NDP and under the PC government include the ability to afford healthcare prescriptions and dental work on a fixed income. It includes the lack of resources put towards home repairs to ensure seniors can remain in their communities if they wish to. And it includes issues in long-term home care in personal care homes, Madam Speaker. It's not just personal care homes, it's also supportive housing homes, it's retirement plus homes, Madam Speaker. There are issues within transportation, affordable day programs, and we need to have more respect for our seniors here in the province because they've dedicated so much of their time to Manitoba. Madam Speaker, in 2016, we started calling on this government for an independent seniors advocate, a nonpartisan person that would act similarly to the children's advocate, to be here to advocate for seniors no matter who is in government. British Columbia and parts of Atlantic Canada already have such jobs, and I want to sincerely thank the NDP for getting on board and supporting our call as well. But Madam Speaker,
the member's
on this
time
day,
has expired. The member is going to be allowed 10 more seconds to complete her statement. The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As you can see, there are many, many issues that seniors are still facing in our province. It's a pattern that started under the NDP, continues under the PCs, and we need to make a real change and implement an independent office for a seniors advocate.
The Honourable Minister of Families for another ministerial statement, and I would indicate that the required 90 minutes notice prior to routine proceedings was provided in accordance with our Rule 26 Bracket 2. Would the Honourable Minister please proceed with her statement?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. As Minister of Families and Minister responsible for accessibility, I'm pleased to proclaim October as Disability Employment Awareness Month. Since 2010, October has been proclaimed National Disability Employment Awareness Month in Canada. And 2 years later, in October of 2012, Disability Employment Awareness Month, otherwise known as DEEM, was established in Manitoba and acknowledged every year since. DEEM raises awareness of disability employment issues and celebrates the contributions of people with disabilities to Manitoba's workforce and to our economy. DEEM also recognizes the nonprofit associations, employment organizations, employers, and businesses that have gone that extra mile to promote the hiring of people with disabilities and strengthen available employment opportunities. With the passage of the accessibility standard for employment under the Accessibility for Manitobans Act in 2019, it is important to raise awareness and prevent and remove barriers affecting Manitoba's labor force. All Manitobans benefit from the positive outcomes of hiring more persons with disabilities, and I know myself and many others in this chamber have had the honor of visiting workplaces and employees who demonstrate the benefits and goodness that comes from having diverse workplaces. This year, our province will be marking DEEM with an awareness initiative on accessible employment during Small Business Week of October 16th to the 22nd. Ads will run in the daily, weekly, and community papers across Manitoba and on social media. The Public Service Commission, in collaboration with the Civil Servants with Abilities Network and the New Professionals Network, are hosting 2 events highlighting the abilities of employees with disabilities and the importance of breaking down barriers to employment. The Manitoba Legislature will be lit up on October 20th to celebrate and promote National Disability Employment Awareness Month. This is aimed at recognizing how people experiencing disabilities contribute to the business and their communities, helping companies to become successful and competitive. It is through initiatives such as these that we can make Manitoba a more accessible province to live and work. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. More than 200,000 Manitobans are living with a disability of some kind, including my mother, who is a double amputee. Over 35,000 of these Manitobans with disabilities are unemployed or either underemployed. Disability Employment Awareness Month is an opportunity for us to promote employment inclusion, celebrate the unique contributions of members of our community who were born or living with disabilities. This month also helps us increase awareness of those positive outcomes of hiring people with disabilities. People with disabilities make great employees. They bring diversity to the workplace. Disability Employment Awareness Month also affords us the occasion to have the necessary conversations around breaking down barriers, preventing stigma, rewriting narratives relating to people with disabilities, and promoting opportunities for those people living with disabilities in Manitoba. While Disability Employment Awareness Month opens an opportunity for conversation around employment for people with disabilities, more work needs to be done to create equal employment opportunity here in Manitoba. All hands must be on deck to achieve employment equity in this regard. Employers, employees alike should be willing to create and accommodate those people living with disabilities. I encourage all Manitoba employers, workplaces, businesses, industries, organizations, and groups to use Disability Awareness Month, Employment Awareness Month, to discuss, explore, and collaborate to come up with solutions to increase employment for people living with disabilities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I seek leave to respond to the Minister's statement.
Does the member have leave to respond to the ministerial statement? Leave has been granted. The Honourable Member for St. Boniface.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to speak to Disability Employment Awareness Month. I think when we talk about people with disabilities, the first thing we need to remember, of course, is that they're human beings first. We're all human beings first, and everything else comes after that. And we don't want to ever think of people as being less than. And there was Mahadeo Sukai works for the CNIB Foundation and was asked about barriers that people with disabilities face. And he said, you know, I could name employer attitudes, transportation, workplace safety, or access to technology, but fundamentally, the problem is the system that our designed and built environments, our institutions, exclude people with disabilities. And we need to find ways to open them up and make sure that they are included. There are places like L'Arche Cafe. I had the opportunity to visit in Transcona, who hire people with disabilities. It's actually one of the best greasy spoons I've ever had a breakfast at, so I can recommend it on that basis. But aside from that, they do amazing work supporting people with disabilities. But the other is that when we talk about access in the built environment, I've met people with disabilities in St. Boniface who've talked about how they can't get over a curb, they can't get down a sidewalk, and in winter sometimes I'll see people, when I'm driving home, I'll see somebody driving their wheelchair down the middle of Osborne. So clearly we have a ways to go when it comes to improving those things. The other is that when it comes to EIA traps lots of people in poverty, especially people with disabilities who need assistance and help. We need accommodation. People want to work. They can work. When they do work, they're fantastic employees. And we just need to recognize that no Manitoban is less than, and if we do that, we'll be able to move forward and include everyone. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member statements. The Honourable Minister of Mental Health and Community Wellness.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mental health challenges affect many Manitobans, including a number who live in my riding of Fort Richmond. I rise today to pay tribute to a fallen officer, Kieran Ebanks, the late husband to former government staff member and my friend, Stasia France. Having just marked World Mental Health Day, I stand here to help Stas in her commitment to destigmatize mental health issues and remind each other to check on the strong ones. Kieran Ebanks was a superintendent with the Canada Border Services Agency, or CBSA, for 10 years. He was a decorated officer, a volunteer firefighter, a volunteer with St. John's Ambulance, and a lead member of CBSA's Diversity Inclusion Unit. He chose to end his life this past April. Stas has just one message and wish: check on the strong ones. Kieran was a strong one. He was everyone's rock. He never hesitated to help, lend a hand, love, and be everyone's support. But he was suffering silently, without the necessary help offered to him. So today I share Stas's words verbatim as follows. He was so strong for so long that we all forgot how he was just like us, with his own insecurities and his own vulnerabilities. I think he didn't reach out because he didn't want to let us down by seeming weak or broken. Today I want to remind all of you, no matter your political stripe, no one is broken or weak. You're all perfect just as you are. Not everyone is ready to ask for help or to speak up for themselves. So today, talk to everyone, not just those you anticipate may need help, but everyone. Ask more than once, because asking for help can be hard for those who are strong. Too often, those that need help will hide their pain behind a laugh or change the topic once too often. They will just keep going and going until they can go no further. I want you to check in on the strong ones, the ones who smile, the ones who make others laugh, the ones who carry the burdens, the ones who are unshakable. Lend a listening ear. Encourage them to access supports through work or find someone, anyone they can talk to. Because until they let someone know, we can't help them as they have helped us. We can and must do better. I'm just one widow telling you Kieran's story, and I will spend the rest of my life working to honor his memory. I will work to provide help and supports to those who need it most. I will work so that no one else is a widow at 36 years old. And I will work so Kieran's heart, soul, and love is never forgotten. All my love to each and every one of you.
The Honourable Member for the Maples.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As we have carefully emerged from the COVID-19 pandemic, so have our local summer festivals. I can say that it feels so good to attend events like these once again. On August 20th and 21st, Shahid Udham Singh Sports and Culture Club Winnipeg returned with their annual tournament at the Maples Community Center. This event showcased local athletes and was a welcome return after having away for so long. Thank you to Parmjit Gill, Jodha Taliwal, Kaljit Kumman, Hushiyar Gill, Manjinder Garewal, Bhagwan Taliwal, and all the organizers for this amazing event. On August 28th, the 13th Winnipeg Kabaddi Cup was held by Winnipeg Kabaddi Association. This event was attended by thousands of people, and most of the players were international players. Something which had not been possible until recently. Thank you to Mittu Brar, Gurpreet Khera, Charna Gill, Jagdeep Gill, Shira Johal, Hardeep Brar, and many other organizers. On September 10th, United Brothers Kabaddi Club organized another Kabaddi Cup and Tiyan da Mela in memory of Sidhu Moosewala, Deep Sidhu, and Nangal Ambiyan. This Kabaddi Cup was attended by the largest crowd in Winnipeg history. Following the Kabaddi Cup, a concert performance was held by many well-known singers from Punjab. Thank you to Ravi Chahal, Jassa Tillon, Billa Raikoti, Jassa Teensa, Hardy Gill, and all the other organizers. These events and many others have been held at the Maples Community Center. I would like to thank the president of the MCC, Vicky Chahal, for making these events possible. Finally, I would like to thank many volunteers. Our community cannot thank you all enough for dedicating so much time and hard work. Thank you sincerely your effort, which have allowed us to celebrate sports and culture as we could not for far too long. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Sorry.
The honourable member for Midland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The community of Miami in Midland constituency is a shining example of Manitoba's volunteerism. The Miami Railway Station Museum recently held their summer wind-up, thanking the community for their support over the summer. This past summer, the Railway Station Museum welcomed over 1,300 visitors. This museum is a National Historic Site, complete with the original station house, a caboose, motor car, 200 feet of rail, a freight shed, and is full of original furniture, decorations, and period clothing. The Rail Museum is just one stop in Miami. The Miami Heritage Museum, harness racing, high school rodeo, golf course, Don Alexander Park, and a full-service campground are just a few of the other attractions the community has to offer. In June of this year, the Miami community was preparing for the ribbon cutting and grand opening of the new 5,700 square foot active living center built at a cost of $1.25 million. However, 3 days before the grand opening, a fire destroyed the building. The building was fully insured, so despite this terrible setback, the site was cleared of the debris and the rebuilding is taking place as I speak. Once again, we look forward to the opening of the Active Living Center, which will provide services for area seniors and the community at large. I encourage members of the Assembly and all Manitobans to take in the scenic Pembina Valley and enjoy the many amenities and hospitality the community of Miami can showcase. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Elmwood.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. As Northeast Winnipeg commuters know, the $6.35 million street upgrade of Nairn Avenue from Watt Street to the 111-year-old Louise Bridge is almost complete. This summer's upgrade construction is a welcome improvement to this vital link between the Northeast Quadrant and the downtown and beyond. It's one of Winnipeg's 200 street construction projects this year. The street renewal program helps address just one of the city's massive infrastructure deficit, which includes sidewalks, water treatment, separating our water and sewer system, removing underground lead pipes from the city water main line to your house, bike paths, and of course old bridges, including the 111-year-old functionally obsolete ones built the same year as the gunfight at the OK Corral. Elmwood residents know the Louise Bridge needs to be replaced. The city was originally scheduled to make final decisions on the overall master plan and Eastern Corridor project this fall and deal with the Louise Bridge replacement issue. With time running out on the bridge and the new city administration incoming, we call upon the Premier and the provincial government to take a leadership role on the Louise Bridge replacement to help the city get it built. The recommended 3-lane bridge in each direction will maintain and enhance the link for everyone in Northeast Winnipeg and Transcona, and importantly meet the future needs of our quadrant with the expropriation process begun City planners have done their part by signaling to the city administration that they need to act quickly. A key element to the entire project will be to keep the old bridge open during the entire construction period. The clock is ticking, and the province needs to take a leadership position on getting the Louise Bridge finally built.
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Reconciliation and Northern Relations.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. It is truly fitting as we celebrate Fire Prevention Week, we highlight some of our province's most dedicated firefighters. Like many pioneer settlements across the country, firefighting in Selkirk started as a bucket brigade, where whichever community member was available would attend to help put out the fire. In the period between 1894 to 1896, the community lost more than 20 buildings. This highlighted the need for more organized firefighting plan and department. With this, the Selkirk Volunteer Fire Department was officially born. This was truly a community effort, where donations of funds and buckets came from local residents and merchants. Today, I stand before the House in celebration of Selkirk's 125th anniversary of its volunteer fire department. It is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, consecutive operating volunteer fire department in Manitoba. In the beginning, the department consisted of 12 to 15 volunteers and a horse-drawn chemical engine. The fire alarm in the early days was the church bell of the Christ Church, and the fire hall was located on the corner of Eaton and Eveline. The alarm would sound. Available citizens would race to the fire department with their horse and wagon to be the first to hook up to the chemical engine. In 1930, with the growth of the community, the need for modernized equipment arose. This was the same year that 2 fire trucks would arrive. One a pumper truck and the other a hose truck, affectionately known as Maggie and Jigs. Maggie has been restored and remains within the community to this day as part of Selkirk's history. Today, Selkirk boasts some of the most highly trained and technically expert firefighters in rural Manitoba. The Selkirk Fire Department has set high standards for their members to ensure public safety in the community and continues to implement state-of-the-art firefighting technology. I would like to thank members of the Selkirk Fire Department, both past and present, for their continued commitment to the citizens of Selkirk. Joining us today is Fire Chief Dave Miller and Secretary Treasurer Ted Muir. I am tabling the names of Selkirk's other volunteer firefighters. Madam Speaker, I ask my colleagues to please rise and join me in celebrating the 125th anniversary of the volunteer Selkirk Fire Department.
Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Madam Speaker, the residents of West Winnipeg are worried about health care at the Grace Hospital. The ER waits there have gone up month after month under the PC's watch, and since this past summer, they've lost some 13 intensive care units, nurses from the front lines in that hospital. We know that the PC government also closed 9 beds at the Grace Hospital. People in Kirkfield Park and other constituencies. Kirkfield Park, of course, not having an MLA since that person ditched this government, perhaps over health care. People in this riding are worried. Just like Brian Pallister, the Stephenson government continues to cut health care. We know we need more supports for the Grace. Will the PCs stop the cuts and start fixing health care?
The Honourable First Minister.
Well, once again, the Leader of the Opposition continues along his line of his litany of false accusations on the chamber floor here, Madam Speaker, but Manitobans know better. They know that the fact of the matter is that there is a challenge with a shortage of healthcare workers right across this country. That includes nurses as well, and we know that that's created some challenges after the worldwide pandemic, Madam Speaker. And of course, we have taken steps to address that, both in the short, medium, and longer term. Madam Speaker, 400 more nursing seats. We are on track to deliver those in the province of Manitoba. We are also working with the College of Nurses to ensure that we get the internationally educated nurses working on the front lines. Those are the steps that we're taking. Where's the NDP's plan?
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a supplementary question.
Madam Speaker, it's a well-documented fact that nurses started to leave the system when they started to close emergency rooms in Winnipeg. That led to wait times increasing every month following the start of those closures. That's continued right through to the present day. Now, what have the PCs done? Well, they've advanced these cuts to health care that nobody across the province understands. Why do you keep cutting health care, Madam Speaker, at a time when we can least afford to lose nurses? Just this summer, another 13 ICU nurses leave the Grace Hospital. Again, what is their response? They cut 9 beds from the Grace Hospital. That's the facts that we see in the annual report of the Health Authority. Will the Premier please stop cutting health care and finally invest in nurses working on the front lines?
The Honourable First Minister.
Well, Madam Speaker, we are investing in more nurses in the province of Manitoba, 400 new nursing seats, Madam Speaker, in our post-secondary institutions, Madam Speaker. And what did members opposite do? They voted against that, Madam Speaker. We're also working with the colleges, Madam Speaker, to ensure that we can get internationally educated nurses trained and put onto the front line and dealing with that, Madam Speaker. Those are the steps we're doing to ensure that we make improvements to our healthcare system. Now, we recognize there's been a worldwide pandemic right across the world, Madam Speaker. We recognize that. It's created more challenges when it comes to human resources with respect to the healthcare system, but we are taking action, unlike members opposite, who have no plan whatsoever for the future of healthcare in our province.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a final supplementary.
Madam Speaker, the #1 problem we have with health human resources in this province is we've got a PC government that continues to cut health care. Nurses are leaving the profession because they feel disrespected. They see themselves mandated to work endless mandatory overtime shifts. The Grace Hospital, we see, again, 9 beds closed last year. That was during the pandemic. Again, we see 13 ICU nurses who've left that hospital since this summer. The situation keeps getting worse. What Manitobans don't seem to understand is why do the PCs keep cutting health care even as the situation on the front lines deteriorate? Will they finally stop the cuts and start to fix health care, including at the Grace Hospital?
The Honourable First Minister.
Well, I'm glad the member opposite is bringing up the Grace Hospital, because I do remember back in 2015, in fact, June 11th of 2015, the headline was Winnipeg Hospital wait time, the worst in Canada. And it went on to say, for the second year in a row, wait times at the Winnipeg Hospital emergency room are the worst in the country. Now, as I recall back then, Madam Speaker, there was no worldwide pandemic, yet the NDP government had the worst wait times in the history of our country, Madam Speaker. We will take no lessons from members opposite. We will continue to make those investments in healthcare.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a new question.
Under the PC's watch, ER wait times at that hospital have gotten worse month after month since the date of the article the Premier cites. That's right. Everyone working on the front lines of the healthcare system will tell you that the healthcare crisis in Manitoba is worse than it has ever been, and it's because of PC cuts and PC interference. That's right. On the topic of PC interference, we know that the Minister of Infrastructure overruled the professional public service. They overruled the professional public service who said that Brandon development was going to increase collisions and would violate the Water Rights Act. Now, the minister and the premier spoke about this topic at length yesterday, yet one thing was conspicuously absent from their commentary: a denial that this was political interference. Right. So the question remains, why did this government interfere with this Brandon project?
The Honourable First Minister.
Well, the Leader of the Opposition just stated that month after month after this article was written, things started and continued to get worse in the province of Manitoba. Well, that was in fact under an NDP government, Madam Speaker. I will table that for the member opposite right now.
Order. Order. The Honourable First Minister.
Well, Madam Speaker, I know the member opposite asked another question about infrastructure, transportation. I'm pretty sure my time is up, so I'm happy to answer that the next time around.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a supplementary question.
It's not the Premier's time that's up. It's the entire PC government's time. And it's because the crisis in healthcare in Manitoba is worse than it's ever been. Healthcare is worse than it's ever been, Madam Speaker, and it's because they keep cutting. They also continue to interfere. In this case, the Minister of Infrastructure overruled the professional public service to advance the interests of a developer in Brandon who donated the maximum allowable to the leadership campaign of the Premier. Both of them made numerous comments on the subject yesterday. At no point did they ever deny that there was political interference. It certainly seems as though political interference occurred here. The Premier should clear the air by answering today, why did her minister overrule the professional public service on this Brandon project?
The Honourable First Minister.
Well, Madam Speaker, the arrogance of this member never ceases to amaze me. It continues on the floor of this chamber today, just in the last question. He started to talk again about healthcare in the province of Manitoba. I reminded the member opposite about back in 2015 when we had the worst wait times in the country, Madam Speaker, at that time at the Grace Hospital. That was there wasn't a worldwide pandemic then, just prior to that, Madam Speaker. So Manitobans know what it would mean to go back to a previous NDP government, Madam Speaker. It would mean the worst wait times in the history of our country, because that is their legacy, and there's no pandemic to fall back on, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a final supplementary.
So I'll point out to careful observers, Madam Speaker, again, the Premier refuses to deny that there was political interference on this Brandon project being spearheaded by somebody who donated the maximum allowable to her leadership campaign. Again, this is 2 days, multiple questions, multiple conversations, multiple commentary by the PCs. Not once do any of them ever deny that they politically interfered to advance the interests of a big PC donor. This is a project that will cost the people of Brandon hundreds of dollars each year on their water bills. The public service identified concerns around safety with this project, and yet the PCs overruled all of these concerns. Not once has the Premier ever denied that there was political interference. Will she do so today? That's right.
The Honourable First Minister.
Well, Madam Speaker, the project that the Leader of the Opposition is referring to was supported by the City of Brandon.
Right.
We know that there are conditions that need to be met, the most important of which are safety conditions that need to be met. And if those safety conditions are not met, then that permit would be revoked, Madam Speaker.
Right.
That's very clear in there. The Leader of the Opposition can go down every rabbit hole he wants to make, any accusations he wants. They're all false accusations. The fact of the matter is $2.5 billion committed over the next 3 years in the province of Manitoba, 1.5 of which alone, $500 million a year are going towards infrastructure projects in our roads to improve the safety right across this province. That's what Manitobans asked us for, and that's what we're delivering on.
The Honourable Member for Concordia.
Madam Speaker, yesterday we informed the House that the minister overruled a decision of his department that pushed through an access point off Highway 10 in Brandon for a party donor. I'd like to table for the House a recent article regarding a different applicant's request. In it, the minister rejects calls for a highway access point for a business on that same highway. The only difference between these two cases? One gave thousands of dollars to the PC party and to the Premier, and the other did not. Why is the minister only working for his friends rather than the safety of all Manitobans?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when I first became Minister, Madam Speaker, I actually consulted with a lot of municipalities and communities around the province of Manitoba, Madam Speaker. And one of them was the City of Brandon. I had met with the City Mayor, the Council, at the end of March, the opportunity to meet with them. And the thing was, they really wanted the development to happen in the City of Brandon. And one of the development was the South End development, which is going to wanted access points. And the City of Brandon actually even passed a resolution to make sure that this happens. So they're asking for our help to help grow the City of Brandon, Madam Speaker.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Brandon wants it.
The Honourable Member for Concordia on a supplementary question.
Madam Speaker, the minister is calling to close an access point to Highway 10 for a Wayway-Secapo First Nation that has existed for decades. In a letter, the minister wrote, "There are significant safety concerns with access to PTH 10. Yet just down the road is where the government's political friends want something done. All of a sudden, the minister is willing to overrule the safety concerns that were outlined by his own department. The only difference between these two cases, one put thousands of dollars in the pockets of the PCs and the Premier. Once again, why is the minister in this government only willing to work for their friends and not for the safety of the people of Manitoba?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you know what? I actually had the opportunity to also meet with the Chief of Wayway-Secapo this July. I met with the Minister of Economic Development and also with the Minister of Indigenous Reconciliation. We both met with the chief, and we actually had a good conversation. To actually the opportunity to look at also a safety opportunity when it comes to Highway 10 on the north side of the Trans-Canada Highway, Madam Speaker. We are working and collaborating with First Nation communities along with the City of Brandon, Madam Speaker.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Concordia on a final supplementary.
Yesterday, we revealed that the minister was willing to overstep and overrule his department's decisions that an access point on Highway 10, and it was called, it would increase collisions. The minister's response was that he would do it for economic development, and yet another business on that exact same highway is being told they cannot keep their access point that has existed for decades. This is as clear as it comes, Madam Speaker. One set of rules for the PCs and their friends, and one set of rules for everyone else. The only difference here, one applicant gave thousands of dollars to the PCs and the Premier, and the other did not. Why is the minister prioritizing his friends over the safety of the people of Brandon and all Manitobans?
Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Madam Speaker, when we actually met with both parties, we actually had the opportunity to make sure that we look at the safety and the growth of the city of Brandon. We're going to be focusing on, my department's going to be focusing, number one, safety, but also number two, on economic development in this province. I'm not quite sure why the leader of the opposition is so against economic development. He wanted to keep resources in the ground, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, when it comes to the member from Concordia, he wants to keep access points on the Trans-Canada Highway where there's more safety that is required. So he's talking on both sides of his mouth, Madam Speaker.
Right. Here.
Order. The Honourable Member for St. James.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've heard from dozens of concerned Manitobans at committee, and they've universally told us that Bill 36 is a bad bill. Dale Friesen from Manitoba Industrial Power Users Group joined us last night, and he explained, quote, Manitoba's much-touted energy advantage is rapidly eroding, end quote, and that the targets this government is setting were not justified. Why is the minister not listening to important voices such as the largest industries in Manitoba?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, we know that the NDP is in a tough place because they have the difficult job of messaging that $4 billion of overspent amounts on key bipole and kiosk projects. And of course they'll try to yell me down because they don't want to hear this. $4 billion of overspend on bipole and kiosks have resulted in $24 billion that Manitobans have to pay for. It means higher rates. That's why we have brought a bill that protects Manitobans, keeps rates low, and puts Manitoba Hydro back on a path to stability, a path that they threatened.
The Honourable Member for St. James on a supplementary question.
Madam Speaker, last night we heard from industrial users that the government's approach means more than a doubling of rates by 2040. I'd like to quote Mr. Friesen, who says, and not this Mr. Friesen, quote, that will drive industry from Manitoba. It will destroy energy-intensive industry in this province. It will destroy jobs. It will destroy economic activity. It's already happening, end quote. Mr. Friesen and industrial users are rightly concerned about the effect rate increases will have on jobs in this province. Why is the minister not listening to these important voices?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I welcome any question from that member on the subject of what threatens Manitobans and what threatens Manitoba Hydro. We know that there was an expert report on kiosk and bipole, and it said interference, hiding, failure to be transparent, failure to manage contracts properly. But most of all, what was said by the previous government was that these investments didn't cost Manitobans a dime. And instead now we know we're on the hook. That's why action is needed to protect Manitoba ratepayers, to protect Hydro, and put them on a path to stability in the future. We value their low rates and the growing economy that are possible if there's action taken now.
The Honourable Member for St. James on a final supplementary.
Madam Speaker, Bill 36 is a bad bill, and that's what dozens of presenters universally told us over 2 days of presentations. Bill 36 restricts a real presentation of Hydro's finances. Instead, this government intends to undermine the Public Utilities Board. Industrial users say that, quote, higher energy rates constrain industrial investment and ultimately result in plant closures that bring job loss and declining economic activity, end quote. We need a different approach, Madam Speaker, one that listens to the concerns raised by so many Manitobans. Why is the minister not listening, and will he withdraw Bill 36?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Well, the member for St. James is flip-flopping because he's claiming to have thanked all the presenters, and yet we saw that member for St. James try to, for 45 minutes, block presenters from presenting at 11 o'clock in the evening, seeking an early adjudication and an end to the committee. And finally, after 45 minutes of shameful antics, they relented, and presenters that had waited on the line for almost an hour had a chance to speak again. So if that member had really welcomed those committee members, he wouldn't have done those things. We stand for a stable Hydro. We stand for lower rates, and that's what the bill makes clear.
You're here.
Honourable Member for Union Station.
Madam Speaker, tens of thousands of Manitobans are waiting in pain for surgeries without an idea of when they're going to be scheduled. That's why a surgical wait dashboard that tells people how long they'll have to wait for their procedure is so important. The Premier promised her government would deliver on a surgical wait dashboard months ago, yet they've missed the 2 deadlines that they themselves set for Manitobans. Will the Premier commit to launching a surgical wait dashboard that provides monthly updates today?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member from Union Station for the question. It gives me an opportunity to talk a little bit about internationally educated nurses, those individuals that could join our health system and assist us with ensuring Manitobans receive the care and the surgeries they need sooner. Right. Madam Speaker, Ms. Segua is an internationally educated nurse who received her education in the Philippines. In 2013, under their administration, Madam Speaker, she applied for registration here in this province. They told her to go to Quebec. Madam Speaker, I've also heard many times from the member from Notre Dame about similar situations such as Ms. Segua. I haven't heard from her since I issued the compliance order to register nurses here in our province. The member's time has expired.
The Honourable Member for Union Station on a supplementary question.
Madam Speaker, tens of thousands of Manitobans have no idea when they'll be scheduled for surgery. Many of these folks are waiting in pain. And a surgical dashboard would help provide people with wait times, the number of people waiting for procedures, and how many surgeries are being completed each month. The Premier committed to launching this dashboard in July. She still hasn't delivered. Will the Premier commit to launching a surgical wait dashboard today?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. More on nurses that would help with our surgical backlog, Madam Speaker. Right. The member for Union Station likes T-shirts and wearing T-shirts and was seen this fall wearing a T-shirt that says the NDP stands with workers. In the background was a legislative building.
Wait for it.
In the background was a legislative building, and Madam Speaker, even with my glasses on, I wasn't sure if it was a legislative building in Alberta or Saskatchewan, because that is where they sent our nurses, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Union Station on a final supplementary.
Madam Speaker, perhaps instead of providing absolutely ridiculous responses, the minister can focus on being transparent and honest with Manitobans who are waiting for surgeries. That's the very least this government can do. The Premier promised to launch this dashboard in July. She missed that deadline. Then she promised to launch the dashboard in September. She's missed that deadline as well, Madam Speaker. Manitobans want to know, they need to know how long it will take to get the surgeries that they need. Will the Premier finally follow through on her commitment and launch a surgical wait dashboard today?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Where was the commitment and the follow-through to the province that to the newcomers who came to this province, Madam Speaker, as internationally educated nurses wanting to practice in their profession during the dark days of NDP. They were sent packing, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's more fear-mongering from the NDP because they don't want to talk about their record or their dark days.
Or their
But
plan.
wait times data is available on the government website, including surgeries, diagnostic, cancer care services, and we will release the dashboard when it is ready.
Order. The honourable member for Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Thompson Pool closed under this government and has sat closed since 2019. An announcement leading up to the by-election contained no timeline for this project. The news release claimed the project would cost $15 million, but will in fact cost many million dollars more. When will this project be built, and will this government increase its contributions to ensure that the Thompson Pool gets built?
The Honourable Minister of Labour, Consumer Protection and Government Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I was pleased to be in Thompson for the ISIP announcement with the mayor there and the federal government. Very pleased to make that announcement. We know that the city is, or the town of Thompson is, city of Thompson, is working on making sure that that project goes through, Madam Speaker, and it is in their hands. They will advise us what happens when they get the RFP back, and we'll work with them to make sure that the pool gets built.
The honourable member for Thompson on a supplementary question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The news release from May says the pool would cost $15 million. That's not true. I'll table a briefing note that was generated from when this project was announced. It says the project will actually cost about $20 million. The government has not put forward enough to cover the cost to build the Thompson Pool. Will they increase their contribution and tell us when this project will be built?
They lost the by-election.
Order. I'm starting to have difficulty hearing, and I'm hearing certain voices that are out there that keep popping up, and so I'm going to ask everybody for your cooperation, please. The Honourable Minister of Labour, Consumer Protection and Government Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, we do work with the proponent on these ISIP projects, a federal-provincial agreement, and we work with the municipality to make sure that these projects will get done. While I was in Thompson, I was very pleased to be toured by Mayor Smook so she could show us all the other areas in Thompson in which we were partnering with the City of Thompson. Very pleased with the outcome of those projects, Madam Speaker. We will make sure the pool gets built.
The honourable member for Thompson on a final supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Thompson Pool has been closed for 3 years now. This government did not offer any assistance to Thompson until a by-election was called.
DCs don't care about Thompson.
And what they have offered falls millions of dollars of short to make sure that this project is complete for the City of Thompson. The minister knew their announcement falls short of what is needed to complete this project. Will they increase their contributions and ensure that this pool gets built?
DCs don't care.
The Honourable Minister of Labour, Consumer Protection and Government Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, the member opposite doesn't seem to take yes for an answer. I'm kind of at a loss here, Madam Speaker, on telling the member opposite several times the pool will get built. Unlike the dark days of the NDP, Madam Speaker, where they had no plan, no concept of what it would take to keep infrastructure running. They left us with an infrastructure deficit that we're still digging our way out of, Madam Speaker. The Thompson Pool is one of those projects that we will get done where they failed.
The honourable member for St. Boniface.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In April 2021, Manitoba Liberals were asked whether we could investigate issues of sexual assault being covered up in the labour movement in Winnipeg based on dozens of complaints detailed in an article at rankandfile.ca. We called for all-party support for an inquiry. While the Minister of Justice did respond, the NDP did not. We have to ask whether it's because one of the NDP's senior advisors, Bob Dewar, would rather keep it quiet that in 2013 he was removed from the MGEU executive because he ignored a restraining order and hired a convicted rapist back into the workplace with a survivor. Evidence that I shared with the Minister and Justice and the Premier previously. That judgment call didn't stop Mr. Dewar from being hired again and again by John Horgan, Jagmeet Singh, and the Manitoba NDP. Will the government consider public hearings or an inquiry to allow victims to speak, or will we have to call for a federal inquiry into the abuse we know has happened?
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Well, Madam Speaker, there's a lot of information in that question. Certainly, I'll take that information under advisement.
Order.
Well, he's taking it under.
Order.
Ask it again, I don't think.
The honourable member for St. B on a supplementary question. The honourable member for St. Boniface.
Yes.
Oh, your mic just wasn't clicking in, but go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That's not the only case. In February 2019, a CUPE union official, Abe Araya, allegedly sexually assaulted a co-worker who was told to stay silent while he worked provincial and federal campaigns to elect NDP politicians. That November, he was elected president of CUPE Manitoba, even though the former NDP candidate for St. Boniface said there isn't a single person in the labour movement, especially CUPE at all levels, who did not know about this person prior to his election. They knew he was elected anyway, and when the victim complained to her union, she was called a liar and was fired, but the Brandon police found enough for a criminal charge in January 2021. These cover-ups have never stopped. Unless this is challenged, it will never stop. Are we alone in this, or will the government give victims who've been silenced for so long a voice by calling an inquiry?
Order. The Honourable Minister of Families.
Madam Speaker, our government takes very seriously allegations of and incidents of sexual harassment in the workplace. We firmly believe that everybody should be able to go to work free of harassment of any kind. That is why we brought in 2018 some of the strictest workplace policies in the country that has been a model for other legislatures and other workplaces across the country in terms of protecting all individuals who work in an assembly and who work for the civil service, including having a no wrong door approach. And so while we have brought in policies to ensure that everybody has a workplace that is free of harassment, if there's individual incidences that the member would like to have looked at, there's a process for that, and it is not the floor of the legislative chamber.
The honourable member for River Heights on a final supplementary.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, individuals with executive function disorders, often associated with learning difficulties, autism, or ADHD, have a deficiency in the executive or adaptive function of their brain. They may have a high IQ, yet are unable to plan, to organize their lives, or to manage their meals, housing, or finances. Currently, the government, through Community Living Disability Services, does not provide support for such individuals after they reach 18, if their IQ is above 75. When will the Premier's government recognize that such individuals need significant support after they turn 18 in their transition to adulthood? And when will she ensure such support is available through CLDS?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Our government made significant investments in Budget 2022 for people with disabilities, which includes an additional $5 million in the Children's Disability Services diagnosis and treatment of people experiencing disabilities. We've also made more than $26 million in new initiatives to support people within the CLDS program, whether that is ensuring that there's a strong, stable workforce by enhancing those wages or providing greater supports, such as the Bridge program, which is allowing people to receive enhanced respite that they need. We know that there's a long way to go to support people with disabilities, and I appreciate the member bringing that particular issue to the floor, and it's something that our government is committed to working on.
The honourable member for Brandon East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Many Manitoba seniors and the caregivers who provide support for them live with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. Can the Minister of Seniors and Long-Term Care explain how our government is taking the necessary steps to support seniors, their families, and the caregivers living with Alzheimer's?
The Honourable Minister of Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to thank the member from Brandon East for that excellent question. I was pleased to meet with the Alzheimer's Society of Manitoba, where they advocated for increased support for individuals living with Alzheimer's and other dementias. From this meeting, our department advocated on behalf of the ASM to get approved funding for increased supports. And in September, I was pleased to announce our government will be investing $1.3 million over 4 years to expand their First Link client support program. This investment will help support over 130,000 Manitobans to assist with them in dealing with this terrible disease.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Notre Dame.
Madam Speaker, the state of home care in our province is unacceptable. Home care workers are being stretched thin due to high vacancy rates across the province, and as a result, clients are seeing their non-essential appointments cancelled. Non-essential services such as bathing, laundry, housekeeping, and bulk meal preparation. These are services that people depend on to live with dignity. The government needs to take urgent action to ensure that people are receiving the home care services they need. Will the minister do so today?
The Honourable Minister for Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And as I'd indicated to the House on earlier occasions, this government was very proud to initiate the Stevenson report and recommendations. We invested over $15 million to enhance infection prevention, controls, and also to establishing over 50 infectious control staff, more than 200 full-time housekeeping staff, 44 allied housekeeping staff or health staff, and also to improving information and communication technologies. Those are initiatives that this government has taken to protect seniors. Incidentally, that was something that the NDP voted against.
The honourable member for Notre Dame on a supplementary question.
Madam Speaker, the questions are about home care and not personal care homes, which was what the Stevenson report was referring to. The PCs have refused to adequately compensate home care workers and provide decent working conditions for home care workers and benefits, and this has contributed to the high vacancy rates across the province. WRHA home workers that I met with last night told me that it's not uncommon for vulnerable elderly clients to be sitting in dirty diapers for 3 days at a time due to a lack of services, and this is so wrong. The government should take action to ensure our most vulnerable seniors are receiving the care they need to age in place. Will they do so today?
The Honourable Minister of Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I continue to indicate this government's investment to assist seniors, and we will continue to do that. In regards to the home care situation, we too understand that we need to address the home care challenges in the province of Manitoba. Therefore, that's why we have initiated a senior strategy to reach out to stakeholders and seniors in Manitoba to determine the best plan possible. We'll have a plan. They did not have a plan.
The time for oral questions has expired. Order, please. Order. The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Reconciliation and Northern Relations.
Madam Speaker, on House business.
On House business.
During my private member's statement, my intent was to include the names of our volunteer firefighters into Hansard, not to table their names.
And I appreciate those comments from the Minister. Petitions. The Honourable Member for Transcona.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. To the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background is as follows. The Bibliothèque Régionale Jolie has been served notice by Red River Valley School Division to vacate the premises currently situated in the auditorium of École Heritage School by March 31, 2023. The auditorium was originally built in the 1960s by renowned Manitoba architect Etienne Gabory and has been home to the JRL for 48 years. A photo of the auditorium captioned "The Regional Library" is published in a 2008 document titled Heritage Buildings of the RM de Salaberry and St. Pierre Joly. It is marked as an important modern building that could attain the status of heritage site. JRL and Red River Valley School Division have flourished from a mutually beneficial memorandum of understanding for 54 years. Their shared collection boasts over 50,000 books and has the fourth largest collection of French language literature in rural Manitoba. Say that fast. Students that are bused in from the neighboring municipalities that do not have a public library, such as Niverville, Grunthal, and Cleeffield, are provided with free access to the public library and its fourth largest collection of French books in rural Manitoba during the school year. Therefore, we petition the Legislative Manitoba as follows. Number 1, request the Minister of Labour, Consumer Protection and Government Services to consider granting the auditorium to the JRL by March 1, 2023. Number 2, to request the Minister of Education to recognize the value that JRL provides to the student population of EHS, as well as the communities of the Village de St. Pierre Joly and the RM de Salaberry. Number 3, to request the Minister of Education and Minister of Francophone Affairs to recognize that an MOU between Red River Valley and the JRL is mutually, financially, and culturally beneficial. Number 4, to request the Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage to recognize the heritage potential of this important building and its status in the community. And number 5, to request the Minister of Sport, Culture, and Heritage to prevent any renovations to the auditorium that would destroy and devalue the architectural integrity of the building. And this petition is signed by many Manitobans.
In accordance with our Rule 132(6), when petitions are read, they are deemed to be received by the House. The Honourable Member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. The background to this petition is as follows. Number 1, a hearing aid is a battery-powered electronic device designed to improve an individual's ability to perceive sound. Worn in or behind a person's ear, they make some sounds louder, helping people hear better when it's quiet and when it's noisy. Number 2, people who suffer hearing loss, whether due to aging, illness, employment, or accident, not only lose the ability to communicate effectively with friends, family, or colleagues, they also can experience unemployment, social isolation, and struggles with mental health. Number 3, hearing loss can also impact the safety of an individual with hearing loss, as it affects the ability to hear cars coming, safety alarms, call 911, etc. Number 4, a global commission on the state of the research for dementia care and prevention released an update consensus report in July 2020, identifying 12 key risk factors for dementia and cognitive decline. The strongest risk factor that was indicated was hearing loss. It was calculated that up to 8% of the total number of dementia cases could potentially be avoided with management of hearing loss. Number 5, hearing aids are therefore essential to the mental health and well-being of Manitobans, especially to those at significant risk of dementia and Alzheimer's, a disorder of the brain affecting cognition in the ever-growing senior population. Number 6, audiologists are healthcare professionals who help patients decide which kind of hearing aid will work best for them based on the type of hearing loss, patient's age, and ability to manage small devices, lifestyle, and ability to afford. Number 7, the cost of hearing aids can be prohibitive to many Manitobans depending on their income and circumstances. Hearing aids cost on average $995 to $4,000 per ear, and many professionals say the hearing aids only work at their best for 5 years. Number 8, Manitoba residents under the age of 18 who require a hearing aid as prescribed by an ornithologist or audiologist will receive either an 80% reimbursement from Manitoba Health or a fixed amount for an analog device up to a maximum of $500 per ear, or 80% of a fixed income amount for a digital or analog programmable device up to a maximum of $1,800. However, this reimbursement is not available to Manitobans who need the device who are over the age of 18, which will result in financial hardship for many young people entering the workforce, students, and families. In addition, seniors representing 14.3% of Manitoba's population are not eligible for reimbursement, despite being the group most likely in need of a hearing aid. Number 9. Most insurance companies only provide a minimal partial cost of a hearing aid, and many Manitobans, especially retired persons, old age pensioners, and other low-income earners, do not have access to health insurance plans. Number 10. The province of Quebec's hearing device program covers all costs related to hearing aids and assisted listening devices, including the purchase, repair, and replacement. Number 11, Alberta offers subsidies to all seniors 65 and over and low-income adults 18 to 64 once every 5 years. Number 12, New Brunswick provides coverage for the purchase and maintenance not covered by other agencies or private health insurance plans, as well as assistance for those whom the purchase would cause financial hardship. Number 13, Manitobans over the age 18 are only eligible for support for hearing aids if they are receiving employment and income assistance, and the reimbursement only provides a maximum of $500 an ear. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. Number 1, to urge the provincial government to consider hearing loss as a medical treatment under Manitoba Health, and number 2, to urge the provincial government to provide income-based coverage for hearing aids to all who need them, as hearing has been proven to be essential to Manitobans' cognitive, mental, and social health and well-being. This petition has been signed by many Manitobans.
The Honourable Member for the Pas-Camisec.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. The background to this petition is as follows. Number 1, Provincial Road number 224 serves Peguis First Nation, Fisher River Cree Nation, and surrounding communities. The road is in need of substantial repairs. Number 2, the road has been in poor condition for years and has numerous potholes, uneven driving surfaces, and extremely narrow shoulders. Number 3, due to recent population growth in the area, there has been increased vehicle and pedestrian use of Provincial Road 224. Number 4, without repair, Provincial Road 224 will continue to pose a hazard to the many Manitobans who use it on a regular basis. And number 5, concerned Manitobans are requesting that Provincial Road 224 be assessed and repaired urgently to improve safety for its users. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the Minister of Infrastructure to complete an assessment of Provincial Road 224 and implement the appropriate repairs using public funds as quickly as possible. This petition has been signed by many fine Manitobans.
The honourable member for Elmwood.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. The background of this petition is as follows. Number one, over 25,000 vehicles per day cross the Louise Bridge, which has served as a vital link for vehicular traffic between northeast Winnipeg and the downtown for the last 110 years. Number two, the current structure will undoubtedly be declared unsafe in a few years as it is deteriorated extensively, becoming functionally obsolete, subject to more frequent unplanned repairs, and it cannot be widened to accommodate future traffic capacity. Number three, as far back as 2008, City of Winnipeg has studied where the new replacement bridge should be situated. Number four, after including the bridge replacement in the city's 5-year capital budget forecast in 2009, the new bridge became a short-term construction priority in the city's transportation master plan of 2011. Number five, city capital and budget plans identified replacement of the Louise Bridge on a site just east of the bridge and expropriated homes there on the south side of Narran Avenue in anticipation of a 2015 start. Number six, in 2014, the new city administration did not make use of available federal infrastructure funds. Number seven, the new Louise Bridge Committee began its campaign to demand a new bridge, and its surveys confirmed residents wanted a new bridge beside the current bridge, with the old bridge kept open for local traffic. Number eight, the NDP provincial government signaled its firm commitment to partner with the city on replacing the Louise Bridge in its 2015 throne speech. Unfortunately, provincial infrastructure initiatives such as the new Louise Bridge came to a halt with the election of the Progressive Conservative government in 2016. Number nine, more recently, the city tethered the Louise Bridge replacement issue to its new transportation master plan and Eastern Corridor project. Its recommendations have now identified the location of the new bridge to be placed just to the west of the current bridge, not to the east as originally proposed. Number 10, the city expropriation process has begun. The $6.35 million street upgrade of Narran Avenue from Watt Street to the 111-year-old bridge is complete. Number 11, the new premier has a duty to direct the provincial government to provide financial assistance to the city so it can complete this long overdue vital link to northeast Winnipeg and Transcona. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. Number one, to urge the new premier to financially assist the City of Winnipeg on building this 3-lane bridge in each direction to maintain this vital link between northeast Winnipeg, Transcona, and the downtown. Number two, to urge the provincial government to recommend that the City of Winnipeg keep the old bridge fully open to traffic while the new bridge is under construction. Number three, to urge the provincial government to consider the feasibility of keeping it open for active transportation in the future. And this petition is signed by many, many Manitobans.
The honourable member for Concordia.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly, and the background to this petition is as follows. Number one, the residents of the River Park South community in Winnipeg are disturbed by the increasing noise levels caused by the traffic on the South Perimeter Highway. Number two, the South Perimeter Highway functions as a transport route for semi-trucks traveling across Canada, making the stretch of the perimeter especially loud. Number three, according to the South Perimeter Noise Study conducted in 2019, the traffic levels are expected to increase significantly over the next 20 years, and backyard noise levels have already surpassed 65 decibels. Number four, Selkirk Road, which runs along the South Perimeter, contributes additional truck traffic, causing increased noise and air pollution. Number five, residents face a decade of construction on the South Perimeter, making this an appropriate time to add noise mitigation to the South Perimeter to these projects. Number six, The current barriers between the South Perimeter Highway and the homes of the River Park South residents are a berm and a wooden fence, neither of which are effective in reducing traffic noise. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure to consult with noise specialists and other experts to help determine the most effective way to reduce traffic noise and to commit to meaningful action to address resident concern. And number 2, to urge the Minister of Transportation to help address this issue with a noise barrier wall along residential portions of the South Perimeter from St. Anne's Road to St. Mary's Road and for River Park South residents. Petition, Madam Speaker, was signed by many Manitobans.
The Honourable Member for St. John's.
Madam Speaker, I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. The background of this petition is as follows. 1, across the province, many Manitobans continue to struggle with addictions, and the pandemic has led to even more death and worsened the ongoing public health crisis of opioid overdoses. 2, 372 Manitobans died of an overdose in 2020. That's over 1 a day, and 87% higher than in 2019. 3, Manitoba is expected to exceed over 400 overdose deaths in 2021, but the data is not publicly available since the last public reporting of opioid deaths was published in 2019. 4, the data for drug overdose deaths from 2020 to 2021 was compiled through media inquiries, and this needs to change. 5, access to timely data on the harms of drugs helps to inform both government and stakeholders on where to take action and target resources needed in various communities. 6, Manitoba is the only province not providing regular timely data to the federal government opioid information portal. 7, Manitobans deserve a government that takes the growing drug crisis seriously and will report the data publicly in a timely manner to target actions and allow for accountability. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the provincial government to enact Bill 217, the Fatalities Inquiries Amendment Act, overdose death reporting, and to require the province to publish the number of drug overdose deaths as well as the type of drug on a government website in a timely manner. Signed by many Manitobans.
The Honourable Member for Notre Dame.
Madam Speaker, I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. To the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba, the background of this petition is as follows. Number 1, home care workers in Manitoba provide skilled and compassionate care that helps better the quality of life for thousands of Manitobans. Number 2, robust home care services are proven to reduce the strain on health services and demand for hospital beds. Number 3, home care reduces the demand for long-term care beds as it allows people to continue living in their own space. Number 4, studies show that a third of the 200,000 Canadians living in long-term care homes could stay home with proper home care support. Number 5, investing in home care saves money as daily services cost half the price of a long-term care bed and 1/7 the daily cost of a hospital bed. Number 6, the provincial government's cuts to home care in Manitoba has resulted in chronic staffing issues that caused the WRHA to cancel 27,000 home care appointments in the month of April 2022 alone. Number 7, many clients in Manitoba only receive home care services once a day, whereas countries such as Denmark offer up to 6 visits a day. Number 8, home care workers in Manitoba are paid poor wages, are offered little benefits, lack sick time, and are overworked, resulting in difficulty retaining and attracting workers. Number 9, home care workers have been without a contract since 2017 due to this provincial government's interference in labor negotiations. Number 10, investing in home care is a proactive approach that would save the province millions of dollars as well as allow more Manitobans to age in place. We petitioned the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the Minister of Health and the Minister of Seniors and Long-Term Care to immediately increase investment in home care services so that home care workers can be paid a fair wage and clients can receive the level of service they require. This has been signed by Geraldine Aloza, A. Dalla, and A. Sobrano. and many Manitobans.
The Honourable Member for St. Vital.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. The background to this petition is as follows. 1. The Bibliothèque Régionale Jolie Regional Library, JRL, has been served notice by the Red River Valley School Division, RRVSD, to vacate the premises currently situated in the auditorium of École Heritage School, EHS, by March 31st, 2023. 2. The auditorium was originally built in the 1960s by renowned Manitoban architect Etienne Gabory, and it has been home to JRL for 48 years. 3. A photo of the auditorium captioned "The Regional Library" is published in the 2008 documentary titled Heritage Buildings in the RM of de Salaberry and St. Pierre-Jolie. It is marked as an important modern building that could attain the status of heritage site. 4. JRL and RRVSD have flourished from a mutually beneficial memorandum of understanding for 54 years. 5. Their shared collection boasts over 50,000 books and has the 4th largest collection of French language literature in rural Manitoba. 6. Students that are bused from the neighboring municipalities that do not have a public library, such as Niverville, Grunthal, Kiefeld, are provided with free access to the public library and its 4th largest collection of French books in rural Manitoba during the school year. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. 1. To request the Minister of Labour, Consumer Protection and Government Services to consider granting the auditorium to the JRL by March 1st, 2023. 2. To request the Minister of Education to recognize the value that JRL provides to the student population of EHS, as well as to the communities of the Village de St. Pierre-Jolie and the RM de Salaberry. 3. To request the Minister of Education and the Minister of Francophone Affairs to recognize that an MOU between the RRVSD and JRL is mutually, financially, and culturally beneficial. 4. To request the Minister of Sport, Culture, and Heritage to recognize the heritage potential of this important building and its status in the community. 5. To request the Minister of Sport, Culture, and Heritage to prevent any renovation to the auditorium that would destroy and devalue the architectural integrity of the building. This petition has been signed by many Manitobans. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for River Heights.
I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly. The background to this petition is as follows. Individuals with executive function disorders, usually associated with a learning disability, ADHD, or autism, have a specific deficiency in the executive or adaptive function of their brain. Individuals with executive function disorders can have a high IQ and can in some instances speak as eloquently as a university professor, but often are unable to plan and organize their lives, manage their meals, houses, or finances. Some individuals have an executive function disability in which their executive function develops slowly, requiring that they receive help and support for 5 to 7 years after they turn 18 years old. Many individuals with executive function disorders can do well in life and at work if given adequate supports and the chance to fully develop their executive function capabilities. Without that support, they risk becoming homeless, face inconsistent employment, and/or could be the victims or perpetrators of crime. Manitoba has few limited resources specifically to help those with executive function disorders. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the provincial government to partner with organizations that provide individual and group supports and online resources for children and adults with executive function disorders and IQs above 75, including A, online videos featuring individuals with executive function disorders, raising awareness and explaining a strength-based way to fully develop their executive function capabilities. B, a manual listing all resources for those with executive function defects. C, learning modules and instructional videos teaching daily tasks that involve executive function. And D, a free online webinar series to enable individuals with executive function deficiencies to access government supports. 2, to urge the provincial government to improve funding for community living disability services, CLDS, and other organizations, which can provide support for those with executive function disorders in order to reduce wait times for those who need to access them. To urge the provincial government to recognize that individuals with executive function disorders with a normal to high IQ have great potential to be gainfully employed, provided they have some supports, and to set up initiatives to help these individuals get and keep jobs, including a public awareness campaign. 4, to urge the provincial government to recognize that individuals who are helping those with executive function disorders are essential partners and enable them to accompany the person into a hospital or other situations as necessary, regardless of age. 5, to urge the provincial government to mandate that all teachers take courses on learning disabilities, including executive function disorders, during their post-secondary education in order to better understand and educate and end the discrimination they often experience in the classroom. Signed by John Baticher, Jasmine Pryor, India Pryor, and many, many other Manitobans. Thank you.
The honourable member for St. James.
J'ai présenté la pétition suivante à l'Assemblée législative. Le contexte de cette pétition est le suivant. 1. La bibliothèque régionale Jolly Regional Library a été avisée par la division scolaire Vallée de la Rivière-Rouge de libérer les locaux actuellement situés dans l'auditorium de l'école Héritage School d'ici le 31 mars 2023. 2. L'auditorium a été construit dans les années 1960 par le célèbre architecte manitobain Étienne Gaboury. Le berger y est installé depuis 48 ans. 3. Une photo de l'auditorium intitulée « La bibliothèque régionale » est publiée dans un document de 2008 intitulé « Bâtiments patrimoniaux des MR de Salisbury et Saint-Pierre-Joly ». Il est indiqué qu'il s'agit d'un bâtiment moderne important qui pourrait atteindre le statut d'un site patrimonial. 4. Berger et DSVRR ont prospéré grâce à un protocole d'entente mutuellement bénéfique pendant 54 ans. 5. La collection commune compte plus de 50 000 livres et possède la 4e plus grande collection de littérature de langue française dans les régions rurales du Manitoba. 6. Les élèves qui ont transportés par l'autobus des municipalités voisines qui n'ont pas de bibliothèque publique comme Niverville, Grunthal et Kleefeld ont accès gratuitement à la bibliothèque publique et à sa 4e plus grande collection de livres en français dans les régions rurales du Manitoba pendant l'année scolaire. Nous présentons à l'Assemblée législative du Manitoba la pétition suivante. 1. De demander au ministre du Travail, de la Protection des consommateurs et des services gouvernementaux d'envisager de concéder l'auditorium à la BLG d'ici à la 1er mars 2023. 2. De demander au ministre de l'Éducation de reconnaître la valeur que la BLG apporte à la population étudiante de EHS ainsi qu'aux communautés de villages de Saint-Pierre-Joly et de MR de Salisbury. 3. Demander au ministre de l'Éducation et du ministre des Affaires francophones de reconnaître qu'un protocole d'entente entre le RRVSD et GRL est mutuellement bénéfique, financièrement et culturellement. 4. Demander au ministre des Sports, de la Culture et du Patrimoine de reconnaître le potentiel patrimonial de cet important bâtiment et son statut au sein de la communauté. Et 5. Demander au ministre des Sports, de la Culture et du Patrimoine d'empêcher toute rénovation de l'auditorium qui détruirait et dévaloriserait l'intégrité architecturale du bâtiment. Cette pétition a été signée par Hannah Bratsky, Heidi Bubenzer et Cole Chuby. Merci.
The honourable member for the Maples.
Madam Speaker, I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background of this petition is as follows. Number 1. Home care workers in Manitoba provide skilled and compassionate care that helps better the quality of life for thousands of Manitobans. Number 2, robust home care services are proven to be reduce the strain on healthcare service and demand for hospital beds. Number 3, home care reduce the demand for long-term care beds as it allows people to continue living in their own space. Number 4, studies show that a third of the 200,000 Canadians living in long-term care homes could stay home with proper home care support. Number 5, investing in home care saves money as daily services cost half the price of long-term care bed and 1 Seventh, the daily cost of hospital beds. Number 6, the provincial government cuts to home care in Manitoba has resulted in chronic staffing issue that caused the WRHA to cancel 27,000 home care appointments in the month of April 2022 alone. Number 7, many clients in Manitoba only receive home care service once a day, where countries such as Denmark offer up to 6 visits a day. Number 8, home care workers in Manitoba are paid poor wages, are often offered little benefit, lack sick time, and overworked, resulting in difficult retaining and attracting workers. Number 9, home care workers have been without a contract since 2017 due to this provincial government's interference in labor negotiations. Number 10, investing in home care is a proactive approach that would have saved the province millions of dollars, as well as allow more Manitobans to age in place. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the Minister of Health and Minister of Seniors and Long-Term Care to immediately increase investment in home care service so that home care workers can be paid a fair wage and client can receive the level of service they require. This petition has been signed by many Manitobans. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Grievances? Orders of the day, government business. The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Madam Speaker, would you call Committee of Supply?
It has been announced that the House will consider estimates this afternoon. This House will now resolve into Committee of Supply. Mr. Deputy Speaker, please take the chair.
Minister, are you ready? Minister, if you could just say hello, we just want to make sure the sound is working.
Test, test, test. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it would be much better if you had a headset.
We can hear you, but it would be a lot better if you had a headset. And Minister, if you are able to come to the chamber, that is...
That's not something that we have the authority to.
That is not something that I have the authority to request.
If he doesn't have a headset.
Doyle, if you don't have a headset, we can get you one. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, the problem with my headset, can you hear me now? Over here.
Hey, Doyle, why don't you say hello and we'll let you know if we can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
That is a little better. We've sent him a headset, but we can.
I think that's a little better. There's a headset on the way, but you know what? We're going to start. Is everyone okay to
No,
start?
I got a headset. You know, Mr. Chair, I do have a headset, but because I'm running the newer iPads, my headset doesn't actually plug into my headset. I have to use my electronic Jabra headphones.
We're going to begin.
Do the best we can. Just ask him to speak.
Okay.
And if you can make a point of speaking clearly, that would probably help things along.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, good.
We can hear you. It's not perfect, but let's get started and get the clock moving here. Will the Committee of Supply please come to order? This section of the Committee of Supply will now consider the estimates of the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. Does the Honourable Minister have an opening statement?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair.
Honourable Minister.
I'm pleased to present the 2022-2023 Manitoba Transportation Infrastructure Main Estimate Supplement, which provides background information on the department's activities and complements the estimates of expenditures in Budget 2022. Manitoba Transportation Infrastructure recognizes that the importance of strategic infrastructure investment as Manitoba recovers from COVID-19 pandemic. Investment in our provincial highways, bridges, and water control network will help us stimulate economic growth, create jobs, and protect Manitobans. The department's strategic infrastructure budget of 2022-2023 is of $862 million, including $615 million in capital investments, $111 million for Manitoba Restart projects, as well as $136 million for the stewardship activities related to the maintenance and
Minister,
preservation.
my apologies. I just need to interrupt. Can you just check and see if you have a paper over your mic or some other such thing?
Basically have my mic in my earphones. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay, it just needs to speak up.
Okay, just speak up then, that's fine.
Okay.
Go
I
ahead,
will.
Minister.
Thank you. I'll start with this. Department's strategic and infrastructure budget of 2020-2023 is $862 million, including $615 million in capital investments, $111 million in Manitoba restart projects, as well as $136 million for stewardship activities related to the maintenance and preservation of highways, bridges, and water-related assets. Budget 2022 introduced, for the first time in Manitoba's history, a 3-year capital plan which key priorities to strengthen, invest, and build on provincial infrastructure. This plan commits over $2.4 billion to Manitoba transportation and infrastructure's strategic infrastructure investments between 2022 and 2024. This includes our renewed commitment to a $1.5 billion investment over 3 years in Manitoba's vast highway network with a minimum of $500 million per year. The highways budget reflects the investment categories on infrastructure renewal, economic development, climate resiliency, and connectivity and innovation. Each project is categorized in the investment category that best fits the primary reason for capital projects was initiated. Details information on Manitoba Transportation Infrastructure's 2022 multi-year highway investment strategy is published on our website, Mr. Speaker. Our 3-year capital plan also includes over $300 million for the Lake Manitoba, Lake St. Martin Outlet Channel project, which will provide much needed protection to the community surrounding each lakes and impacts of the flooding. That includes $101 million for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. We've also made significant progress in advancing through the environmental assessment process and remain committed to fulfilling our obligation and working collaboratively with the Indigenous communities and other right holders. To this end, we have established an Environmental Advisory Committee that will support these right holders groups to provide guidance and input over the course of the project. We will proceed with construction as well as we will receive environmental approvals. We expect the Outlet Channel project to take 3 to 4 years to complete. Manitoba Transportation Infrastructure has a vision that over the next 10 years, Manitoba will be recognized as a national and international transportation hub, linking east to west, north to south, to enable strong economic activity across our borders. One of the strategies to support this vision is the Winnipeg 1 Million Perimeter Freeway Initiative. We have already implemented many immediate safety improvements, with ongoing improvements to the Winnipeg population continues to grow. This investment allows the full access control modern freeway to create a safe and more efficient perimeter highway for residential, commercial, and industrial growth in Winnipeg and their surrounding communities. The project includes construction of a new interchange at the Perimeter Highway and St. Mary's Road, with a design and initial phase of a second new interchange at the Perimeter and McGillivray Boulevard. The Trade and Commerce Grid initiative will further advance Manitoba Highway Network by enabling market access for the international, interprovincial, and regional movement of goods to position our province to become the national and international trade hub. Once completed, the grid of strategic routes will represent 36.5% or 712 kilometers, 7,112 kilometers of Manitoba's all-weather provincial road network, with 6,000 kilometers of grid already completed. The 3-year strategic route plan includes projects for Provincial Trunk Highway 5, 21, 59, and 83, making smart investments in the strategic grid of highways that can support the heaviest load will enable Manitoba's products reach provincial, national, and international market efficiently. Manitoba Transportation Infrastructure will continue its efforts to build strategies and foster innovations to work smarter deliver services, and improve outcomes for Manitobans while ensuring the best value of money for all investments. And I end my comments, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
We thank the Minister for those comments. Does the official opposition critic have any opening comments?
I do.
The honourable member for Concordia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do want to just put just a few words on the record and hopefully get to questions fairly quickly. We do have a number of important concerns to bring forward with regards to staffing in the department. As we know, and as we documented over the past number of estimates processes, that the government has significantly decreased capital construction. We also know that staffing continues to be an issue. The vacancies that the minister identified last year, in contrast to years prior, continues to be a concern, so we hope to get some further information there. The minister won't be surprised that we will talk as well about the lack of progress on the Lake St. Martin, Lake Manitoba channels project. And of course, we will also discuss this minister's recent decision to overrule his department and provide a permit to his political friends in Brandon. We know that's a concern to the people of Brandon, but it's also a concern to Manitobans more broadly. I do have a number of what I would hope are quick, short questions that we'll find some time to get into. I hope the minister will indulge those questions because, as he, I'm sure, is no doubt aware, there's a number of projects around the province that a very quick update would be very helpful. With that, I'll leave my comments there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Under Manitoba practice, debate on the minister's salary is the last item considered for a department. Accordingly, we shall now defer consideration of line item 15.1 subsection A contained in resolution 15.1. At this time, we invite ministerial and opposition staff to enter the chamber, and I would ask the minister and critic to please introduce their staff in attendance. Minister, would you like to introduce your staff?
Yes, I got my staff sitting here. I got
Honourable Minister, I just need to recognize you, Honourable Minister. Go ahead.
And I should know better. I used to chair this all the time. Mr. Chair, I just wanted to let you know that I have my deputy and my 4 assistant deputies, so I'll introduce each one of them. My deputy minister is Sarah Teeley, and then I have for my assistant deputy, I got Blair McTavish, Cynthia Ritchie, Christine Sire, and Russ Anderchuk with me. And I also have my chief of staff, Andrew Clark, and Kyle Renier as my executive assistant.
Thank you, Minister. Would the critic like to introduce their staff?
Much, thank you.
Honourable Member for Concordia, please go ahead.
We'll get a bit of a rhythm here, won't we, Mr. Chair? I'd like to introduce the institutional knowledge vault that is Chris Sanderson, our researcher in our NDP caucus.
Thank you both for those remarks and introductions. In accordance with Sub-Rule 78, subsection 16, during the consideration of departmental estimates, questioning for each department shall proceed in a global manner, with questions put on the resolutions once the official opposition critic indicates that questioning has concluded. The floor is now open for questions. The Honourable Member for Concordia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Can the minister tell us the names of his political staff? I didn't catch if he introduced them along with the rest of his departmental staff.
Minister, just give me a wave when you're ready for me to recognize you, and go ahead, Honourable Minister.
I got Andrew Clark, who is my special assistant, and Kyle Reiners, who's my executive assistant with me today.
The Honourable Member for Concordia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How many positions are currently vacant in the department, and what is the vacancy rate in the department as a whole?
The Honourable Minister.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to let the member for Concordia know that that we have 1,825 FTEs on staff, and right now, when it comes to seasonal, we've hired for the summer over 300 hired seasonal staff for the summer when it comes to road construction and road improvements.
The Honourable Member for Concordia.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking the minister is what the vacancy rate is as a whole, and then also if the minister can provide us with the vacancy rate by division.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, what right now, and when it comes to our staffing right now, we have 1,825 FTEs that are working full time in the department. We've hired over 300 when it came to seasonal staff, and then we also hired a number of young staff when it comes to entry level young people who had given them opportunities when it comes to summer students. Our department was really recruiting lots to come forward to work with the department. This is a good way of basically having the abilities to see what the department has to offer when it comes to careers in the department. And we're also looking at, when it came to talking to my colleagues across the country, other transportation ministers, it's like any other industry. There is a shortage of staff when it comes to every industry, especially in construction. When you're talking to the heavy construction group, they're having issues when it comes to recruiting. Right now, we have in society we have when it comes to the baby boomer generation, a lot of retirees happening right now, and our department has been recruiting continuously for the last couple of years, making sure that we stay ahead of when it comes to the demands that we have when it comes to working in our industry right now. So we are right now recruiting. We are going to summer job fairs, just like every other department in government. It's not only provincial; it's also in the federal government. And talking to municipalities and in cities throughout the province, they're feeling the same situation when it comes to recruiting of staff. And even with the First Nation communities, they're also having challenges of recruiting staff.
The Honourable Member for Concordia.
I'm going to need a little bit of specificity from the minister here, because we do have a number of questions with regards to vacancy rate, and I mean, I'll just be blunt. It makes me, more suspicious when the minister won't give a straight answer to a fairly basic question like this. That maybe there's something going on here. Now, I can appreciate what he's saying. I come to this in a reasonable way to understand that there are challenges, throughout the workforce. That being said, just giving us a baseline number would be appreciated. Just preliminarily looking at the information in front of us, 1,825 appears to be the appropriation of FTEs within his department. He's now saying that's the number of people that are working full-time. He's saying there's 100% or there's a 0% vacancy rate, the 100% participation rate? I don't think that's what he's trying to say. So I'm going to break this down by division within his department, so I do appreciate if he can give us a little bit more information. Again, I'll give him another opportunity to talk about the vacancy rate within the department as a whole, and then within each division, if he could give us a breakdown, that would be much appreciated.
Honourable Minister.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to let the member know from Concordia that our vacancy fluctuates throughout the year. The thing is, when it comes to seasonal, in the summertime, we had over 300 seasonal employees that usually move on to, like, if they're students or if they're actually have other part-time positions or seasonal positions elsewhere. They come to work with the MTI for that period of time. And then the thing is, right now, we're experiencing a high vacancy, such areas of the North region. Right now, the challenge up north right now is that the mining industry is really ramping up production. Our economic growth that we have we have big opportunities in northern Manitoba when it comes to mining. Our economic development plan is working, but the challenges that we have in the north now is that some of our mines are taking local government employees, and then actually we're finding that some of the local government employees, towns in our northern communities are taking some of our MTI staff. So it's been a challenge, like in the industry. It seems like no matter where you go with industries, certain companies or certain organizations are taking staff from other people. But we're recruiting big time in the north. We have positions available. Currently, we have 83 positions in recruitment, and we're going to keep on these positions until they get filled, and we'll continue. And right now, we're also training 40 additional equipment operators to be trained for the snow clearing. So again, the fluctuation of vacancies will fluctuate during the year.
The Honourable Member for Concordia.
Well, again, I'm getting very concerned here. It's not my first time through the estimates process. I do recognize that sometimes it takes the staff a few minutes to pull the information together. Some ministers like to, leave the time blank. Some like to talk or maybe even answer a previous question rather than the current question in order to give their staff time. I have to admit, because I can't see the minister's staff, I can't give any kind of gauge as to whether this work is being done behind the scenes. I don't know if the minister is being intentionally obtuse or whether he's actually just trying to get the information. I'm willing to give him that time, but this is now the third time I've asked this question. And so I need some specificity. I need some information. This is the estimates process. We're talking about specifics within his department with regards to vacancy rates. He previously said that he had 100% participation rate, that every position was filled in his department. I'm sure he didn't mean that. So I'm giving him the opportunity to converse with his staff, give us the information. We're asking now specifically by division, what is the vacancy rate in road safety, for instance? Could the minister please indicate maybe he's gathering that information? I'm willing to give him that time, and I'm willing to move on to further questions in order to allow him to gather that information, but I do need to understand what he's doing right now. Is he trying to get me the information, or is he just trying to waste everyone's time?
The Honourable Minister.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. The amount that we're allocated is 1,825 positions, and right now the members should know that when it comes to this department, that when it comes to vacancies, this numbers do change as the season. We're right in the cusp of a transition from summer employment when it comes to road grading, road construction season, to when we come into winter. There's a transition period right now that will actually, when the snow, depending on when we actually receive the first snowfall, the first snow clearing, this is where we have our staff, these extra staff that we have right now to be trained to clear snow, to get ready for this season. We have continuous seasonal staff that come back regularly to come and work for the department when it comes to snow clearing. And they're the same ones that come back every year. A lot of them actually probably do other things, other occupations during the summer. And then they're here, even a separate seasonal staff to do snow clearing. And it's much like when it comes to our summer students, to other seasonal workers that have probably other occupations during the winter that come during our summertime. So right now it's very hard to give the exact numbers when it comes to the vacancies when we're in a transition season.
The honourable member for Concordia.
Okay, so I just want to confirm, I think I heard the minister say that there were currently 825 current FTEs that were filled in his department. That would indicate a 45% vacancy rate. Maybe the minister can just confirm that we all heard that correctly. What I'd like to know is with regards to the division of road safety, and then further the vacancy rate within policy programs and regulation. Again, I'm trying to understand what the minister is trying to do here. I get that he's saying this is a moving target, so let's make it easy. What was the vacancy rate today, with the caveat that he expects, as he says, 300 additional hires within the next, I think he said within the next few months. Well, I understand that portion. This isn't a gotcha. This is just trying to understand within his department what the current, right now, what today's vacancy rate is in the division of road safety and in policy programs and regulation.
The Honourable Minister.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Well, again, I just want to tell the member that we have allocation of 1,825 positions. And like I said, in the seasonal, there was 300 that were hired for the summer. They were summer, some of them were summer students. Some of them are probably going to stay on as full-time staff as they got trained and they had opportunities to get full opportunities to get positions as more permanent positions. We're always actively recruiting and we'll continue recruiting, and especially up in the north. I know we did a bunch of travel. I traveled the north and met with many when it comes to First Nation communities. And one of the things I've always said to the First Nation communities is that if there's anybody who is interested in the First Nation community that wants to have a career in MTI, we have positions for them. And I've been really advocating that we have an opportunity to recruit in the north, especially with First Nation communities members. And when it comes to when the member said safety, safety division, and he's probably referring to our motor carrier division. And right now we are a vacancy of 17%, and we are recruiting actively to look for more motor carrier positions. And there's actually, I've noticed there was a graduation that some of them actually come from other provinces. And so we've graduated a number of them that come to my office that I get to congratulate. And we're continuing doing recruiting throughout the department, and to make sure that we have as many staff as possible to, especially with these challenging times, when it comes to the construction industry, they're finding hard to find employees, but our department continues to do recruiting, and they're doing a very good job of doing that recruiting.
The Honourable Member for Concordia.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page now. He's giving me a number of 17%. That's helpful. I want to make sure we are talking about the same thing. This is under 3D. I believe in the estimates book, it's the division is called Road Safety. Likewise, under 1G, Policy, Programs, and Regulation is another vacancy rate we're looking for. And the vacancy rate then in 2B, Capital Planning. Those are some of the ones that we're looking at. And maybe I'll just, while his staff are maybe pulling these up, the vacancy rate in 3B, which is regional operations as well, if we could get those numbers, that would be helpful to understand the overall vacancy rate, which again, to confirm, the minister said was about 45% across the department.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to just let the member know that the vacancy rate average is around in our Department of Manitoba Transportation Infrastructure is averaging around 30 to 35% department-wide. And the thing is, right now, when you ask about policy and program and regulations, we have 19 positions that we're restructured, and over 10, like 11 of them have been filled. And but when it comes to some other, like, because we did some restructuring, we've actually created an infrastructure capital project. It's a new division. It better delivers projects, and we are recruiting a number of people there to making sure that projects like the St. Mary interchange that I had the opportunity with my staff, many of them here today in my office, had the opportunity to do the tour and seeing the exciting things that we are actually doing on the Perimeter Highway. And we also are, that same department is looking at design for the interchange that we're moving next to, is on the McGilvery Boulevard, on the Perimeter Highway, just on the east side of Oak Bluff. And it's exciting times right now. And right now, currently, we have actually are recruiting 83 positions just in this time period right now for the different divisions that we've created. The excitement that we're doing and the progress that we're having right now is that because after the restructuring, some people have moved on, but a lot of them are coming back because there's a lot of good, exciting projects that our government has now initiated, especially when we're looking at the future projects of the 1 million Winnipeg 1 million Perimeter Freeway initiative. We're looking at, I know the member is criticizing the way that we are working with people around the Perimeter Highway to make sure that safety. I know myself, he talks about the situation on the Perimeter Highway on Sturgeon Road. I can honestly tell you, the member from Concordia, that the days before that left-hand turn was taken out, a truck, I was traveling with traffic during rush hour traffic, and a truck decided to turn left, and everybody had to slam their brakes on. There was almost a pileup, and I'm surprised that someone didn't rear end that truck and push it onto the oncoming traffic that was turning leftward to Sturgeon Road going eastbound. So we are looking at the safety when it comes to the Perimeter Highway. And these are the exciting things that we're going to invest in our highways. And then with this new division, headed by my Assistant Deputy Minister, Cynthia Ritchie, who comes from the city of Winnipeg. She is working on these projects, and her team are doing wonderful things to move these projects forward. And we're also we've talked about the dividing the twinning of the highway on the east side. Some of these initiatives projects could have been done years ago, but I saw that the statistics are that was underspent by the previous government by $1 billion, and we could have had 5 interchanges or 6 interchanges around the Perimeter Highway. We could have had the divided highway on the east side of Ontario. So this is the opportunities that we are building up our department, and we're making things happen. And with this new division, we are recruiting, and we are growing, and we're making sure that the allocation of the 1,825 is our goal in our department on a maximum when it comes to seasonal allocation.
The honourable member for Concordia.
Well, I would suggest the minister shouldn't be quite so excited about having a 40 or a 35% vacancy rate within his department, as he appears to be all of a sudden. And just for the record, I do still expect an answer to my question with regards to those outstanding divisions, policy, programs, regulation, capital planning, regional operations, as well as capital projects, I guess. What's the vacancy rate within that new section that the minister was talking about? I do want to switch gears to talk about the Lake St. Martin, Lake Manitoba Channels project. I'll turn the minister's attention to the annual report on page 31. It includes a performance measure for, quote, progress on outlet channel project environmental approval, end quote. The report says that 3 of 6 steps have been complete. That's 3B, measure progress on outlet channels. 3 of 6. Can the minister take us through what those 6 steps are and tell us which 3 have been completed and which 3 remain in progress?
Minister, are you asking to speak? You're just gesticulating with your hands. The Honourable Minister.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just when it comes to the Lake St. Martin, Lake Manitoba outlet channel, it's an important project, and we want to make sure we do it right. Mr. Chair, when it comes to the history of 2011 flood, I remember I was on the west side of the province and I made business, and I know I had family farm up in the Assissippi, Shamoth area, and looking the importance of how much water that came that year. It was a historical flood, and the thing was the devastation that created on the Assiniboine Valley to the Souris River. It was also the new MLA in 2014 when it came to the 2014 flood. We had the situation where the water, when it comes to the Assiniboine River that came from the west side of the province, it was put through the diversion, which was a project that was done back in the 1960s, along with three projects, was the Shamoth Dam, the Portage Diversion, and the Red River Floodway. And in this case, when it came to the 2011-2014 flood, abundance of water had been pushed up through the diversion into Lake Manitoba channel, and the problem there was that it overflowed the Lake Manitoba, and the impact to Lake Manitoba and Lake St. Martin. This was a project that could have been done years ago, probably with the other three projects, but this is a project that needs to be done. And with the previous government, the NDP government, they put an emergency channel that didn't look at environmental situations, but in this case, now that we want to look at reconciliation with our First Nation communities, the time that we've been going around, especially my staff, Cynthia Ritchie and Amna Mackin, they've been doing a lot of consultation meetings throughout the last year. I believe that they've been working with First Nation communities. This is a prerequisite to making sure that the federal environmental assessment gets passed by the federal government. And that's one thing that they really want to see is consultation with the First Nations. So this is the time that we're using to make sure that we get it done right, to make sure that with anything, when it comes to any projects, if it's road projects or any major changes to infrastructure, we do have to engage with Manitobans. And in this case, Manitobans that live in municipalities, but also Manitobans that live in First Nation communities. We also have a number of communities that have a number of Métis, Manitoba Métis Federation people that we need to address. And so we want to make sure that all Manitobans have a participation in that, making sure when we do this project, that everybody had their say. We had every opportunity for our First Nation community to be at the table, to be part of the solution, and to make sure that if there's any questions when it comes to vegetation disruption, when it comes to their medicine, when it comes to their when it comes to the fishery, we got to make sure that any projects that we move forward have fish, fish, what do they call them, fish ladders, to make sure that when it comes to spawning from different lakes, that we're working with three different lakes here. We're working with Lake Manitoba, Lake St. Martin, and we're also looking at Lake Winnipeg. So we want to make sure that all the communities that are along these lakes are part of the solution. And we want to make sure that we've sent over 1,000 pages of documentation to be part of this federal environmental assessment. And there was 134 information requests and 1,000 pages of responses that our department has come to and sending to the federal government. And every so often we think that we have all the documentation done. The federal government comes back for more information. So we're doing as much as we can. We are ready to do the tendering. We're ready to put it out there to start the construction, but we do have to get the assessment done first by making sure that we do consultation with communities throughout the area, the region.
The honourable member for Concordia.
Well, the minister's right about one thing. This project certainly could have probably been done by now. But of course, the minister, as he just took 5 minutes to outline, made mistake after mistake, failed to consult over and over again, and screwed this project up from the get-go. And and he's willing to now come out and say, I'm sorry, and that's, I guess, a step in the right direction, but it doesn't get us any closer to getting the channel project done. So I asked a very specific question, and I think, we have to sort of figure out what we're doing here, Mr. Chair. Are we going to spend 5 minutes of talking around the issue, giving me a history lesson of water management in the province and flood mitigation, and then, give me an answer at the end? Okay, I'd accept that. 5 minutes of nothing, and at least I get an answer. But the minister has to commit to doing something here, either giving me the previous answers to the questions I asked, vacancy rate and policy programs and regulation, capital planning, regional operations, a number of vacancy rates that the minister has failed to put on the record, or answer the current question, which is that there are 6 steps. This is in his annual report, his department's own annual report. 6 steps, 3 of which have been completed, 3 of which have yet to be completed. Which 3 have been completed, which 3 have not. This is in the minister's own documentation. I'm not asking an esoteric question here. I want to know the real specifics about what this report is talking about. Give us the answer.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to say to the member that, that when it comes to this project again, too, there is a steps that we have taken, 3 out of the 6 steps. But at first, I want to say that, this summer is one of the consultation steps. And I just wanted to say that, I had such a great opportunity to meet with a number of First Nation communities, even with the acting Grand Chief McLean, who basically represents the chief at Lake Manitoba First Nation community. We had a chance to have the discussion of what has happened in their community during the 2011 flood and the 2014 flood. And just listening to a lot of these First Nation communities to say how much they really got impacted. And when it came in 2011. And so this is where it's about reconciliation. It's about learning, about building a relationship. I've come from a business background that it's all about building relationships. And in government, it's no different. And right now, when it comes to the environment, doing the prep work for the federal environment assessment is basic consultations. And we went to Fisher River. We had a great visit in Fisher River. They took us on a tour of their community and how they were impacted during the flood of this past year. We also went to Peguis this past summer, because at the same time, their impact, even when it comes to the channels, they are part of the group that's making sure that their impact is. And once this project gets done, we would like to work with the federal government to making sure that we have solutions and opportunities to talk to Peguis First Nations, to make sure that with Chief Hudson, to make sure that what we need to do, and he's told us a number of opportunities to create solution when it comes to our own infrastructure, when it comes to our highway that goes through Peguis to Fisher River, along the Fisher River itself, the river. And so we are, going to these communities and being able to learn more about the impact of the number of floods, the 2011, 2014, and now the 2022. And we also went to Pinamutang First Nation community, where there was a record of 7 First Nations organizations by the IRTC, Interlake Reserve Tribal Council. And we had a meeting, and we listened to the concerns, the issues they had, and we were able to come up and inform them that we're here to work together, for them to be at the table, to also be part of the committee when it comes to moving into building a channel, but also having a voice when it comes to down the road, when it comes to the control structures, to making sure that they have a say when it comes to this major project that's going to be part of the future when it comes to flood mitigation projects. And I will tell you this much, when it comes to the environmental impact assessments of the 6 steps that was part of the enhanced flood protection and public awareness and the performance measures. And I wanted to outline that the member also acknowledges that the amount of success of our department of getting the three areas done right now. And the first one was the screening of the project, and is IIA required. First step is to making sure that the project that we come up with is the project that was required to making sure that flood mitigation is done for Lake Manitoba and Lake St. Martin. And then the next thing is that was number 1. And number 2 is scoping, what needs to be all included. And the scoping of the project would also be when it comes to making sure that when the water comes through the channel, making sure that there's not a lot of silt that comes with the amount of water. So we designed the channels to make sure that the water flows naturally, and as if it was coming from a river. And then we also was preparing the environmental impact assessment report, and that was all completed. Those are the three steps.
The
that
Honourable
were
Minister's
completed.
time has expired. The Honourable Member for Concordia.
I did hear the minister express the three steps that have been completed. Maybe in his next answer he can say which three remain in progress. But I do want to switch gears slightly, and I do hope we come back to the channels projects. I have my colleague here from the constituency of Kiwetinoong who I think has a lot to say about those projects and questions to ask. But I do want to ask the minister with regards to the decision we recently learned of for him to overrule his department and move forward with an access road on PTH 10 south of Brandon, which just so happens to be for a development being put forward by VBJ development. So I just wanted to start that line of questioning by asking, when did the minister first learn that VBJ were looking for a reconsideration on this matter?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, with the member asking about the situation in Brandon, I have to say that when I first became minister of the department back on January 18th, was appointed by the current Premier, Heather Stephenson. It was an honor to be part of this role. One thing that I have a passion for is construction, and when it comes to economic development, I was basically, when I was in Burton and I participated in community committees, and in the town of Burton, I joined the Chamber of Commerce, which was, then I was put into economic development as a side committee, and then I became president of the economic development of the Verdon Wallace CDC. And it was always my passion to focus on economic development. And so when I became the minister for transportation infrastructure, appointed by the Premier, one of the mandates that the Premier had given, also being that another role that I have is also, I'm also the one of the ministers for the committee, economic committee of cabinet, that was also been appointed to focus on, because of my role as transportation minister, is to focus on economic development. And so when I became the minister, one of the things I've always had a good rapport with is building relationships. And one of the biggest things, opportunities I had was to talk to municipalities, to cities in the region, in the city of Winnipeg, to talk about, initiatives, what the concerns they had, what kind of the challenges they had over the years. And the thing is, like I said, our focus was economic development and growing this province. I know your previous government was focused on taxation, creating more taxes, increasing taxes. I know I was in the insurance industry. That's probably one of the reasons why I became an MLA, was that you guys started to tax on insurance policies. In policies, they created autopack registration fees, and your government had done a lot of that stuff to hold back. And I remember I was in business when I was an insurance agency and a financial planner in Manitoba, and seeing that when the oil boom was happening in Virden, no one wanted to incorporate in Manitoba because of your policies. They all incorporated Saskatchewan, and Moosomin grew by 13%, and Virden barely grew by 2% in that period of time. This is an oil boom. This was disgusting, and this is the reason why I became an MLA. And so when it comes to economic development, we basically were listening to communities to talk about, and also stakeholders. And one of the meetings I had was the city of Brandon. I had the opportunity to meet with Mayor Rick Crest and a number of councillors and one of the CAOs for the city, to talk about the different issues that they were facing in Brandon, some of the frustrations when it comes to restrictions and how they can develop. And the thing is, one thing that we needed to do was to see how we, as the Department of Manitoba Transportation Infrastructure, can work together to allow economic development. And when we look at the 10th, when it comes to number 10 highway, when it comes to the bypass, basically, as Brandon's growing southward, and that's where a lot of the residential and is moving towards, is in the west and to the south. There's a hole here. And the thing is, the opportunity for Brandon to continue to grow, it should be no different than the city of Winnipeg. When it comes to the growth of Winnipeg, the history of Winnipeg, it grew. We had a perimeter highway that was beyond the residential side of Winnipeg. And over time, the arteries like Pembina Highway, Portage Avenue, they were all able to grow towards the perimeter highway. So why isn't Brandon no different when it comes to the growth, the opportunity to extend the 18th Street? And so the opportunity that when I was able to talk to the city of Brandon, they passed a resolution for this development that was going to be on the south side of Brandon, to be able to have an access point that both the city of Brandon had passed a resolution to their council. And this was an opportunity for us to work together, for the city to consult with the city of Brandon, and to say to the developer that we do want growth.
The Honourable Minister's time has expired, and I would just remind all members that they should refer to members of this chamber by their constituency or title, and not use their first or last names. Minister, you are required to have your video on, so I would ask that you put that back on. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Concordia.
Thank you. Did the minister or staff in his office, members of his department, meet with representatives of VBJ Developments on this matter? Were they approached by them? Did they have conversations over the phone? And if so, when would that have been?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to answer the question to the member from Concordia, the fact is that, like I said before, I met with the city of Brandon. They came up with this issue about the developer who's the frustrations. And even after they passed the resolution, I did meet with the developer, and that's my process when it comes to meeting with municipalities or for cities or towns in Manitoba. I meet also with stakeholders that want to invest in this province. And this is the opportunity to talk with this developer to make sure that that there was an opportunity to hear them out, to get the history of what's happening from the department, because again, I was relatively a new minister. And like I said, my mandate was to focus on economic development, how to grow the city of Brandon, and how to grow every corner of this province by working with infrastructure. And this is what we've actually had been able to do, to listen, to come up with a solution. And the solution was working with our department to talk about opportunities to looking at the safety when it comes to doing their plan as a developer. They still haven't done their final development. They do have caveats that we're going to respect, but then working with the city of Brandon to making sure that they're 100% on board of all the decisions that are being made. And then with our department to design, to reduce speed limits when it comes to, much like the city of Winnipeg, when it comes to Pembina Highway, is to reduce speed limits, because this is economic growth. Anywhere I drove in North America, I've driven lots over the years as going to conferences. I like driving. I love infrastructure. And every single, any state out there or any province, when you get off the interstate or the freeway, you get into a community, and every community that I've been driving through, as soon as you hit a commercial building, they reduce the speed limit to, from, like if it's in the States, it goes from 65 to 55. If they go into more of a heavier commercial, it goes down to 45. If they go to residential, it goes down to 35. And then eventually, if it's a downtown, which a lot of cities have highways going through, much like, when I went to Wichita, I went through some major, on Highway 75, south of Omaha, there was a number of towns that I had to slow down to 25. They have done it right in many parts of North America. This should not be any different when it comes to the city of Brandon.
The Honourable Member for Concordia.
Can the minister tell us when he had the meeting with VBJ Developments?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, I met with the developer after I met with the city mayor, the city councillor, when it comes to Jeff Fawcett. Request, but the councillor Jeff Fawcett and a number of staff for the city of Brandon. And after meeting with them and the missed opportunity that they see that we're missing here, I had the opportunity to meet with the developer and along with one of my colleagues, and to talk about when it comes to Brandon, the opportunity to invest in the city of Brandon, to create a number of residential housing, to create multiple residential housing, to create box stores, to create retail. This is what Brandon really wants. Brandon wants more tax revenue. They want tax revenue now from increasing taxes, like your government had done in the past. They want to do it for economic development. This is where they get their tax revenue from, to pay for infrastructure that the city of Brandon wants to grow and continue growing, and making sure that that they're doing the same thing that the city of Winnipeg's doing. They're our second largest city, and I want to make sure that this is economic development. The decision was made, and it's through when it comes to the Manitoba Transportation Act, that I have the decision to make sure that if I feel that this is an opportunity to for growth that the city of Brandon wants, I will make that decision, and I will make sure that our department works together with the city of Brandon to make sure that we design when it comes to 18th Street, the extension of 18th Street towards the bypass. We're going to work with the city of Brandon to make sure that every single component and every caveat is incorporated in the design. And it's not going to be anything different than going down south of Pembina Highway to the Perimeter Highway. And we allowed the city of Winnipeg to grow. Why are you guys against the city of Brandon and the Westman? And you guys did not do any favors when you guys were in government to the Westman. You guys took our oil during the oil boom, and you never even put it back into our highways. And you were in the government at that time, the MLA for Concordia.
The honourable member for Concordia.
Can the minister just let us know which colleague joined him in that meeting? And considering the developer is a major party donor, donated, as we've outlined, to the Premier's leadership campaign, did he at any point feel it would be appropriate for him to recuse himself from this decision-making process, regardless of the meetings that he's had? Did he feel that it was appropriate that he sat in and ultimately overruled his department's decisions with regards to safety concerns on Highway 10?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I wanted to say to the member for Concordia that, again, when it comes to the decision that I've made with the decision with City of Brandon for VBJ development was that, again, it came to my attention. They give me the information about what the opportunity that the City of Brandon had, and I reviewed it based on their recommendation and what they really, as a community that really wants to see economic development, create more jobs, to grow the City of Brandon, so that they're not left out, much like the rest of the Red River Valley. They want to be competitive. They want, and again, when Brandon grows, the whole province grows, and that includes the city of Winnipeg. And the thing is, I basically reviewed it. I looked, when it comes to the Manitoba Transportation Act, the Transportation Infrastructure Act, I basically made my decision based on what the requirements, what the request from the City of Brandon wanted, and for future opportunity for growth, for taxation, and to grow for jobs. And that's the important. That was my mandate that was given by the Premier to make sure that we look at every single opportunity when it comes to investing in our infrastructure, when it comes to our transportation corridors. That includes the Trans-Canada Highway, it includes Highway 75, the Perimeter Highway, but also our trade and commerce grid. That included all the RTAC when it comes to weight restriction loading highways that we're rebuilding. We're not just painting them like the previous government did before election, and the only time they've actually spent their budget on the transportation was just before election. And we are rebuilding these highways. We are putting 5 layers of pavement on these highways. Highway 23, Highway number 1. We're making it RTAC so that it's safety. Safety is our priority, and safety is no different than when we're going to be working with the department when it comes to working with the City of Brandon, designing the proper turning lanes, the proper access point. We are going to be working with our engineers and our department to make sure that all Manitobans, no matter if they're coming to the City of Brandon, are going to be driving in a safe environment, much like we have in the City of Winnipeg.
The Honourable Member for Concordia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I'll ask which colleague did the minister join the minister in the meeting for with VBJ, and then just to obviously we're running short on time to tack on another question. The minister said today in question period that he met with the chief of Wayway-Sikapo First Nation regarding the access point on Highway 10. Which is just north of the city rather than south of the city. But again, the minister wants to talk about economic development. This is an established business that is looking to have better access, and the minister said, no, we need to close that for safety reasons. So it just doesn't really jive with his other argument that he's willing to forego safety issues when economic development is on the line. So it begs the question, why? Why would the minister do that for one group and not for the other? I think I've outlined why I think that's happened. Maybe the minister could shed some light. But specifically, I wanted to know, the minister mentioned he met with the chief of Wayway-Sikapo, and they had previously written a letter with regards to this issue. When he met with the chief, did he discuss this issue? And did he say no to the chief's face when he spoke with him in person?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, when it comes to with other businesses that are in the Brandon market too, like I basically met with a lot of different stakeholders, and a number of them, to them, in fact, were First Nation communities. And one thing I was proud to be part of is the Gambler First Nation. They come from my neck of the woods, my old neck of the woods. My mom grew up in the Binscarth area, where Gambler First Nation is relocated. I'm very good friends with the chief of Gambler and his wife, Chief Ledoux. And so when they had a grand opening of their service station in Brandon, they actually asked me to speak on behalf of the Premier, to bring greetings. And I felt so honored that, mind you, I worked with them also on the Potash project, because one of the ministers, when I was in a backbencher, Deputy Speaker, I had the opportunity to work, coming from Russell, I had an opportunity to work with the Potash project and working with Chief Ledoux, building those relationships. And I also, coming from that neck of the woods, I'm also met Chief Murray Clearsky a number of times at different events, and we have had really good discussions about economic development, in reconciliation, the opportunity to work together with our governments, and the situation was when we met with this. I was relatively a newer minister. I knew there was situations where in the past where there was opportunity to work together to. I know where on Highway 10 there were service roads that were on one side, the east side, and there was a possibility that a service road would be, when the project was first established, was there was going to be a service road that would tie in to the number of businesses, the land that the First Nation of Wayway had, and it would have been a very good opportunity to look at the corner of where the airport was, to create an intersection there to allow, when it comes to a traffic light in the future, to have service roads to go to on the east side of the businesses on Highway 10, and then on the new development of the west side of Highway 10 on the when it came to Wayway's property. And I think the Elphinstone First Nation is also involved with that projects too. They have land there too that we met with that chief too at the same time as Chief Clearsky. And again, I had my two colleagues, the Minister of Economic Development and the Minister of Indigenous Reconciliation and Northern Relations at that meeting, and to discuss, again, the Minister of Economic Development represents that region. But also it's an economic development opportunity. So when we had the discussion with Murray Clearsky, his concern was that he would like to have better access to his business right from the highway. And the one thing I had staff there. I had my Assistant Deputy Minister, who is here with me today, Blair McTavish, and our Regional Director, which would have been Kelvin. What's Kelvin's last name? Shavera. And so they were at the meeting, and they were able to take that information back to the department to find solutions to work together with Wayway to making sure that and working with the City of Brandon and the municipality to making sure that everybody's on the same page, collaborate to make sure that we provide a design. Again, number one commitment to our department is making sure that there's safety on that Highway 10, and making sure that we probably have to do a design of turning lanes, much like we're going to be doing on the south end of Highway 10. And we have not closed the access, and we want to make sure that when people go into any business or any development, that there's safety that is taking place. And we probably have to do the same thing that we did on the south side as the north side. And again, we have to consult with the municipality and the City of Brandon, and also working with our department to making sure that we come up with the proper solutions.
The Honourable Member for Concordia.
Can the minister indicate, did he have staff in the meeting with, he indicated he had staff with the meeting with Weiwei Sikapo. Did he have staff with him in the meeting with VBJ Developments? And again, which colleague joined him on that meeting?
The Honourable Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to, with the question that was brought by the member for Concordia, was that when it comes to meeting with both situations, these are two different scenarios. One was basically an active business that our staff met many times with the current gas station bar that Weiwei Capital basically had built and operated in the last year. And the agreement was that the when it came to the access point was going to be removed. But at the same time, when it came to the BBJ development.
The hour being 5 p.m. Committee rise. Call on the Speaker. The hour being 5 p.m., this House is adjourned and stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.